Live. We're live. Hi,
Yay!
everybody. And hi, Emmie. It's so good
Hello.
to have you on today. And thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for having me.
For those of you who are joining us today, this is our second of our New Year's live author chats. The first one was about epic fantasy, and it had Morgan and Helen and Andrew and I, and it is on YouTube under recordings. So you can go watch that if you love epic fantasy. But this is our Court Intrigue Fantasy Live. And hopefully, Katrina's just a little delayed and will be joining us in a bit. We will see. And we'll add her in whenever she joins. But Emmie is here. Emmie, you're an indie author as well as I am. And Emmie wrote Chosen to Fall, which came out last year.
It came out, yes, in May.
Wow. And you've already got the sequel out.
Yes.
That's so exciting. So while we're waiting just on Katrina and letting people join in, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and then I'll introduce myself last.
Okay. Hello, I am Emmie Hamilton. I write fantasy fiction. I am also a published poet, and I write essays. So I kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. I'm obsessed with fantasy, sci-fi and fantasy. So that's kind of the realm that I like to stick in. And yeah, writing is my life. It's what I do when I'm not parenting my son. I am writing.
Wow. So how do you find time is what I want to know. Because I've got two boys too, and it feels like time just runs away from me faster than my toddlers do.
Yes. My son is 4, so he's a handful. But I basically work around his father's schedule. So whenever his father's able to take him, that's when I'm free and I'm writing immediately. I lose sleep as well. I do stay up very late so that I can get my writing in, but you do
It's
what you
all
have
for
to
the
do.
fans.
Yes.
So much love. All for the fans.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a 4-year-old and a 1.5-year-old, and so I'm right there with you. I don't get a lot of writing done during the day. Most of mine is way late at night, and lots of cherry soda and root beer to keep me going.
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. I put my Nespresso machine in my office so that I can just hop 2 feet over to make more coffee throughout the night.
Oh wow, that's awesome! And it doesn't wake them up because it's
No.
in your office.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
So tell us a little bit about what you write.
So I started off writing young adult fiction. I actually went to school. I got my degree in creative writing, and that was what I specialized in, was young adult fiction. And so this series, the Destined series that I started publishing just this past year, that's all young adult / new adult fiction. And I also just started writing an adult dark fantasy book. So I'm definitely staying firmly within the fantasy world. And I also do poetry as well. And I write nonfiction, creative nonfiction essays. And yeah, so that's where all my time is taken up.
Wow. For those watching, because I'm just seeing so many people pop up, I'm Katherine D. Graham. I'm also a fantasy writer, and I typically write epic fantasy, but mine crosses over with court intrigue because I just love all the aspects of who is ruling what and is conspiring for what, and it's wonderful. My debut novel, The Vow That Twisted Fate, came out in July of last year, and it's an epic fantasy with some court intrigue and a clean romance on the side. But coming up in 2022, which is what we're here to share today, our bookish news, I've got a couple bigger books that have more court intrigue and less of the epic fantasy. So it's sort of flip flopping a little bit. So Emmie, I got a question on the last live that I just thought was so good. How did you end up writing Court Intrigue specifically?
Oh, that's a great question. I became obsessed with the idea of a queendom. I just got tired of seeing all of these fantasy shows where it's, it's a kingdom this and kings rule and blah blah. So I got obsessed with ruling a queendom and what that would look like what my ideal queendom would look like, and and what kind of laws there would be and who would carry out those laws and what kind of magic would be incorporated in that, and sort of the politics behind everything, and the conflict that would arise. And I just really got stuck in that sort of idea for a while. I just loved coming up with my own queendom and the territories and stuff like that. And then since I was stuck there, it just kind of naturally progressed where I was like, well, my protagonist, she's gonna kick some butt, and how am I gonna make her do that? And yeah, I just really branched out from that. I just loved the idea of a female run land rather than patriarchy.
Yeah. I think that's something that's sort of in common with a lot of our books. Katrina, who unfortunately, I don't know if she'll be able to join us, so that makes me so sad. But we'll try to catch up with her another time. Katrina has a strong female protagonist, and I know your book does, and in mine that's coming up this year, she's a strong, very independent crown princess who's getting ready to take her throne. And I've written some characters where they're not necessarily the strongest females main characters, but they grow into sort of their role. And I think it's just so interesting to see what would it be like if you didn't have to be saved all the time. Is great. And
Yes.
balancing the power. Okay, I do need a partnership. We do need to be saving people and people saving us, and it just being a back and forth and back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
And all the history that goes in with it and who's related to who and all of that is just great. It's great
I know.
fun.
Yeah, I agree. It's just one of those things where like you can just spend hours thinking about it, not even writing anything down, just living in this idea of what you have. And it's really easy to get lost in it.
Mm-hmm. And if you're watching and you have questions about Court Intrigue and writing it, or our books in particular, feel free to drop them in the chat and we will answer them while we're on the live. But Emmie, tell us a little bit about what books you have coming up in 2022. What's the news?
Ooh, okay. So the Destined series, which I put out last year, Chosen to Fall is book 1. Fated to Burn just came out in November. That's book 2. I have book 3 scheduled to come out in November. It will be the conclusion. So that trilogy will be done. It'll be done. I have ideas for, like a prequel, and this world, it's very easy to expand upon. So I have a lot of ideas that I might go back to eventually. But I do have book 3 coming out in November, which is going to be extremely exciting for me and very sad, very bittersweet of an ending, because I've lived these books for like 10 years. I've had this idea for a very long time. So I do have that coming out. I also started writing, or I just finished last night the first draft to a dark fantasy.
Wow.
It's different for me. It's dark. Like it's just these books that Chosen to Fall and Fated to Burn, they're a little bit more lighthearted, and they're funny, and they're really fast paced and just easy to fall into. This one it's gritty. It's there's a lot of difficult things that happen. There's a lot of, just a lot. So
Yeah.
it took a long time for me to write it. but it will be a duology, and that one I have planned to come out in July, as long as everything remains on schedule. So my whole first half of the year will be devoted to marketing for that one and getting it ready to put out. And then I'll end the year with the third and final book of the Destin series.
Oh, so exciting. I'm so excited that you're branching into the dark fantasy, because that is like, oh, that's my dig right there.
Oh, good. Yes. I love reading it, but I never thought that I'd be capable of writing it, because it's a lot. I feel like I don't know if you get this way, but when I get really into my writing, I like live through the characters, and I really think like, how would this feel? And some of the topics and decisions that are made in this book that I wrote were really tough. So it took a little bit longer for me to kind of work through it and to get into that mindset, and then to remove myself from it again. So yeah, I just thought in general that maybe it wouldn't be for me. And I'm in love. I'm just so excited for this book to come out.
I'm so excited to read more about it. And, I think what I love about these lives is getting to hear little things like that. Like, guess what's coming this year? Because I didn't know before the live that you were getting ready to do the dark fantasy one. So
yes, I've been describing it as kind of like the adult version of the Goonies meets the underworld version of Neverland. So there's some mythology in there. There's found family is a really big thing. There's a lot about like coming into your own power, and kind of uncovering this really terrible thing that's going on. And yeah, it's going to be really good.
So I think it's interesting that this year is going the dark fantasy route, because mine is also going into the dark fantasy route this year.
Okay.
I do still have a more typical fantasy, which is Starfire Express, and that's a portal adventure fantasy about a college girl. She gets on a train, and they're going somewhere on a summer holiday, but she accidentally gets on the wrong train, and it turns out the train's full of monsters. She's the only human. And the train's getting ready to take the notorious godmother, who's been apprehended, back to the dragon overlords. So it can't turn around and take her home. So she's swept up in this adventure going along with it. So that's my big project for the first half of the year. But the second half of the year is my dark fantasy court intrigue. And it's a romance in the Realm of Darkness set, and that's Splitting Dawn. And like you said, it goes very dark. It's got a demon king in it and vampire elves in it.
Ooh,
and
okay.
I know there's a vampire elf prince, and
I am interested in that.
So, and the Realm of Darkness set just launched on Amazon today for 99 cents on pre-order. There's 40 full-length novels in there.
Oh my
by
gosh.
award-winning and best-selling authors, and I have not read any of them. I've only been working on mine, so I can't wait to start that. And I'll drop some of the links. I've already dropped Emmie's link to Amazon in the comments, but I'll drop some other links to our books and our Instagrams. We've got some great tales coming, and Katrina, who is not here, but I'm still going to boost her book anyway. And see if I can find its link real quick. Katrina's book, Heavy is the Head, Love and War, was actually featured in a nerdy book box, or is getting ready to be featured in a nerdy book box. I can't remember if it was featured in December or if it's coming up in like January or February.
I think I saw it. It might be this month.
Awesome. Right. So if you're watching and you can let us know. It might be this month. The new cover has that purple to it, and it is so pretty. So I know Katrina's working on that, and Katrina's also got a couple other things. I think a Valentine's Day project working on too. So here's the link to Heavy is the Head, and I'm going to drop Katrina's Instagram in the chat, so that way you guys can follow her on Instagram and see what's going on with her. I hate that she couldn't be here, because
I know
she's just a lovely, lovely person and a great author. But yeah, we've got a lot of good books coming up, if we can say so ourselves as the authors. I think it's just nice to get the books out in the
Mm-hmm.
world. So,
Mm-hmm.
what's been your favorite part of writing and putting books out? Since you said last year was your first year putting books out too, right?
Yes. Yes. Um, my favorite part, that's really tough. Like, there's a lot of different aspects of it that I loved. Like, I loved joining the Bookstagram community and finding other like authors, like other author in the author community. And I don't have anybody in my personal life who is also a writer or who really understands what it takes to produce a book. So it was just so nice to connect with other people who really get it. So that was a really big positive for me this year. I also loved that my book, like people around the world have read it. I've had somebody on like every continent reach out to me except for Antarctica, but like somebody on every continent reach out to me and tell me that they love my story. I've had people who are
Oh,
like, this is my new favorite book. And like I've had somebody in South Africa who was like, can I beta read for your next book? And like I had
oh,
never met her, like I've never spoken to her before. And I was like, who are you? This is amazing. Yes. And I recently found out that an indie bookstore in Australia ordered in my books to have on their shelves. And I was like, what?
wow.
I know, it's just really cool. Like that's like one of the best things I think about this is that what I'm writing, people like. It's nice that people like it and they're able to connect to it. And I love that it's just this whole like global community that and people that I speak to around the world every single day. And it's just really it's so cool.
That's amazing. I just feel like when you start out as an indie author, you're doing it mostly because you want to retain control over your book and
Mm-hmm.
because you have a very specific meaning to keep to it that might be changed if it goes traditional. Not guaranteed, but might. And I think it's so surreal to see that people are genuinely reading your book. It's like I'm an
Yes.
indie author, and there's complete strangers who have no reason to read my book except for other people telling them about my book, and they're reading my books.
Yeah, I actually felt really validated because I did try to go the traditional route with Chosen to Fall. I spent a year querying it and it kept getting rejected. And I had agents who would tell me, you know, don't do the chosen one trope, don't have a prologue, you know, try to fix this or that. And it was really great that I had a couple agents tell me what they would change about it. But I also thought if I changed that, then it changes everything. And I didn't like that. So I really went out on a whim here because apparently it was not like, I wasn't writing to market. They didn't think it would be able to sell. And I still was like, I want this book out there. And so it was cool that it was so well received, and it won 2 indie book awards this year as well. So
Yes,
that
congratulations.
thank you. It was just like I was like, oh my gosh, this is happening to me with the first book I ever put out. I cannot believe this. Like, my mind is blown. But it also felt really great because it was a huge risk and a big financial investment, you know, to spend money on something that most people would consider a hobby and that you just don't really know if it's going to work out.
Yeah.
And it just felt really great. It felt really great. I was like, thank goodness this was the right decision. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's absolutely what I loved the most.
Because you won a Shelf Unbound Best Indie Award, right?
I did. Yes. Yes. I won that one was a top 100 notable indie book of the year. And and I just won a brag medallion as well.
Oh,
So yeah, very
congrats.
exciting.
It's just so surreal. I think placing in the Next Generation Indie Book Awards for The Violet Twisted Fate this year is what made me genuinely believe that maybe I could be a writer. It's the imposter syndrome is so
Yes.
real. If you're
Oh
watching
yes.
this and you are a reader, maybe you haven't heard that term. It's like you are always sort of doubting, is this real? Is my book really something people want to read? And your reviews help tremendously, but also just seeing that, okay, even these award people think that this is good makes me have to believe there's something about my writing. I don't know if that's something you've dealt with too, Emmie, but it's like,
Uh,
this legitimizes what you're doing.
yes, yes, absolutely. I've really I went through kind of a roller coaster of emotions this year, because I was not new to criticism on my writing at all. I've worked with people one-on-one, especially through school. The Chosen to Fall was actually my thesis for my degree. So
Wow.
I've had people read it from its very terrible beginnings and onwards. So um I was nervous about what people would think in general. When it started to get really good reviews, I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of nice. And then when I received bad reviews, immediately I was like, I'm not a good writer. This was a terrible idea. I don't know why I thought I could do this. And I really felt that for a couple of days. And then I would kind of like, brush it off. You have to brush it off, right? Like it's just
Right.
one person's opinion. And so, and it kind of went like that all summer. I would get a review where it's like, this writing is amazing. And then the next day get review where it's like, this person should not have put this book out yet. It needs more editing and whatever. But then I get another book that's like, I've never read something that's more put together and like has an amazing plot. And, it's just that reading is so subjective and people will find and connect to something that others just won't. And so it's hard. It's kind of hard at first when you're a new writer to kind of go through it, because then, you're like, oh yeah, I can do this. And then, nope, I should not have done this. I can't believe I did this. And then like, oh yeah, I guess I'm pretty okay at this. And yeah, I've had to rely on some friends a lot to help me through that, the chaotic roller coaster that I went on after my book first came out, because it was new and it was difficult. But yeah, the imposter syndrome is just always there.
That's right. And, I think for those watching who have read our books and left reviews for our books, I can't thank you enough. I feel very similarly to Emmie. I put out a couple books that I wrote in college and I didn't edit them really. I self-edited because I'm an editor, but I hadn't finished all my editing certifications and training. And I didn't get it formatted, and I just threw it up on Amazon and put two others, and they were so badly edited. It was atrocious. And of course, they got all these 1 and 2 star reviews, which they deserved. But it sort of shell shocked me. Like you said, my books aren't any good. I shouldn't write anymore. And I didn't write for a solid year. At one point between then and when I released Vow. And my husband picked it up, and he doesn't read fiction at all. And he was like, this is special. You need to put out Vow. And I was like, I don't know. Just really hesitant. Everybody's going to hate it. So I decided to leave my other 2 books and my Goodreads account the way it is and publish under my name, because I want others to see we all start somewhere. Writing's an art, and you get better the more you do it. If you go back and look at all the old Stephen King books versus what he publishes now,
yes,
like,
yes.
you just improve. So now I'm proud of the work that I've put out, but nervous for next year. Every book is like, how are people going to think about this one, especially when you sort of cross the genres? Like,
Yes.
Okay, I've got my epic fantasy with the court intrigue, and now I'm going into a dark fantasy romance with the court intrigue. It's a little different, but we will just take it as it comes. And I'm so excited to have my readers going on the journey with me, as I'm sure you are as well.
Yes, absolutely. I'm actually, so because I'm switching, I mean, I'm not like switching genres. I'm definitely still firmly fantasy, but because I'm going from like YA to adult, this is firmly adult. It will be spicier, not under 18.
Yeah.
Okay. It is not under 18. It is definitely 18 plus. So, it makes me nervous that, can I write scenes like that? Well, is it coming across okay? Or like, is it really corny or something, but I also feel like because I'm switching over to a little bit more of a spicier thing, I'm going to be gaining a lot more different readers, a different group of readers. So so kind of the nervousness happens all over again, because I have the people who enjoy my book so far and they like my writing so far, but now I'm approaching a whole new realm of people that I want to reach, and so I'm back to being like, oh, I hope I fit into this okay. I hope that I'm hitting all the tropes correctly, and that I'm producing something that's worth reading, because the market is still heavily saturated with this sort of thing. So I hope that what I write stands out, and so there's a whole lot of that, and so I'm just so excited. I believe in this story so much, so much. There's a lot of really great themes running through it, and it's just such a journey. It's just so fun. It's very dark, but like a lot of fun. And so yeah, I'm very excited, and I'm like super pumped to get different types of readers in as well. But that nervousness, it's always there.
Yeah. Pedro says, I could never write YA, though I tried when I first started writing. I love new adult. I also write new adult.
Mm-hmm.
I think I wrote a couple YAs back in college, and then I realized as I got into like the industry and actually took an editing job and looked into, what the age groups are, I was like, I don't know that I would mind certain groups of YA reading. I welcome everybody to read the books, but there's a little bit of dark stuff, even in my non-dark fantasy, that I'm like, as a mom, I don't know how I'd feel about my 12-year-old reading. So
Yeah.
it's like, new adult NA is 18 to 23 now. And now that it's officially a category on Amazon, I'm so excited, because I'm like, oh, yes, I've been waiting for this
Yes.
genre this whole time.
Yes, absolutely. That's the thing too. I feel like there was a really big debate last year, right, about young adult fiction, and what is involved in that, and how there tends to be a lot of adult situations in young adult, and it shouldn't be, and all of that sort of thing. And I just kept saying, like, we need new adult to be an official, like a real thing, because then the confusion wouldn't be there, and we can have like the proper separation, and you can appropriately put what you want to in your books.
Yeah.
Very excited for it.
So the new one is going to be adult for you. The new one of mine is also adult, although the novellas in the Splitting World series, which leads up to Splitting Dawn in a way, in the Realm of Darkness set, there's a mix of adult and new adult depending on whose story you pick up. They're all written like standalones, and if you read them, they have Easter egg type things that oh, well, that's so and so from this book or so and so from that book, but you don't have to read the other books to understand what's going on with them. So I don't know. I'm excited to just see how it goes. And like you said, I'm so thankful that now new adult's an official genre for sure.
Yes.
So this has been such a great chat. Thank you so much for joining, and everybody who got on and left comments. You guys are so awesome. We couldn't do this without you as indie authors. The readers are, at least for me, my heart and soul, and why I write what I write.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree. If I didn't have that kind of, I'm doing this for me because I like it, but I'm doing it for everybody else because they love it. And I love being able to bring a little bit of joy and a little bit of distraction and entertainment into other people's lives. And yeah, the readers are just everything.
That's right. So if you're interested, the comments should be on here, with the Instagram links for Katrina and Emmie, and our Amazon links. And definitely go check out Emmie's new sequel if you have read the first book. I'm so excited for it. We are doing these New Year's chats all day today to kick off the new year, and we've got a couple tomorrow. So our next one is going to be in about half an hour. It is Dragon Fantasy, and I will be hosting 3 amazing authors today. Susan, unfortunately, had to drop out for a health issue today, but Charlotte Murphy and Dara Stephan and Rin Murphy will be joining me at 1 p.m. Central to talk about Dragon Fantasy and news and all of that. So subscribe to my channel and hit the bell if you want a notification of the other lives. But we've got young adult dark fantasy coming later today, and just all different kinds of lives with like 20 authors, I think, total by the time it's all said and done. So
that's amazing. You are a powerhouse. That's amazing.
I
I
mean,
look forward to
we're
watching
all
them.
family, all a writing family. So, all right, you guys. I hope everybody has a great new year and thank you for joining us. Bye.